everybody, if I so excited to see folks on this on our first or Nelson's first webinar. I'm a guest on it, but I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat just real quick, maybe where you're from, where you call home. I'm calling home San Diego these days for the last very long time. Where you're home, and maybe one thing you're excited about or grateful for. Anything you're willing to share with the group.
Yeah, that sounds great.
For a few more people to move, more people to join. Mark, Sarah, Sophia, Tom, TSA, CG. I'm probably not saying that name well. Thank you guys all for coming. Really appreciate it. Nelson, thank you for setting this up.
Thank you for sponsoring it. We really appreciate it. All right, so we got some folks in Columbus, Ohio, and Maryland saying in and hello.
Right on. Rainy day. Yes, we had a few rainy days in San Diego, Randy. Just a few.
You had the one rainy day in San Diego?
It was four cold, rainy days. Cold like 50s and rainy like lots of rain. We need about 25, 30 more and a big old snowpack to not have a drought continue.
We'd be very happy to share with you. Not a problem.
Yeah. Just start, they fight the gas pipelines. No one should be fighting water pipelines in California.
That's absolutely right.
All right, well, doing a time check over here is about 12 o'clock in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, and I'm going to give one more minute for those folks who are joining us late from the 11 to 12 meeting that everybody is running from, I'm sure. We'll be starting in about 30 seconds to a minute. Nice.
Welcome, Tom, from Virginia. Mitch, so good to not see you, but see that you're on the line. Mitch has been, and I've worked together in the past. I'm so stoked to see you. Randy, we just talked. Hey, Mitch. Yeah. Another San Diegan here. Very cool. Awesome. Hey, if you guys don't mind, just for the heck of it, if you could tell me how you found Nelson's webinar too. Super curious about that. Like, where's the best place to find people that we can, add value for in these webinars? Did we find you on LinkedIn? Did you see us through personal connections? That'd be just, if you don't mind sharing that, it'd be super helpful. LinkedIn, yes.
All right, LinkedIn.
Email from you in my inbox. Right on, Deborah. Direct invite. Nice. Awesome. Cool. So all three ways. Unsolicited, friendly emails.
LinkedIn again.
Yes. Direct emails. Nice. All right. I'm just waiting for someone to say, Nelson made me come.
That would be Randy right here.
All right.
Well, hopefully this will add some insight, and then we'll be able to.
All right, and on that note, I'll start and welcome everybody to the webinar Bidding to Win. Glad to have everybody on board. I am Nelson. I'll be your host for today. And just wanted to give first the thanks, for you folks to attend, but also to our sponsors, which are Trident Proposal Management and also Richter and Company. Trident Proposal Management is going to be represented today by, it's actually just a president and CEO. That is actually Jeff Everage, a former Navy SEAL, was a senior consultant for Booz Allen Hamilton, and actually one of our SMEs in capture management, and also sponsored by Richter and Company. And Randy's speaking for Randy for Richter and Company is going to be Randy Richter, the chairman and founder. About 30 years of experience in federal government marketplace, director of systems engineering at Unisphere, PM at ICS, and is one of industry's foremost competitive intelligence price to win strategy SMEs. So glad that everybody could join us. I hope that you guys actually just packed a light lunch so you guys can eat while we're presenting and enjoy your lunch. And so let's just dive into the webinar and just talk about bidding to win. And so one of the things that is true is that answering an RFP is a lot easier when we are prepared, right? When we have our ducks in a row, when we have done our due diligence, even more so when we have actually just captured, done the capture work, and we've actually spent some time, with the principals, our customers, the contracting house, making sure that we have everything, in line, right? So that is just a lot of substantial diligence that's required for this, work to go off and, for us to capture this business. It's just, an incredible amount of work. And on top of being really a lot of work, we have to make sure that we have reviewed all of this information that we've been capturing repeatedly and constantly, right? This happens, almost in a cycle that doesn't end. And, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can make that cycle more effective and efficient, right? But there are three key periods that we want to focus on, which are the pre-RFP, the release of the RFP, and the pre-submittal of the RFP, right up to the point where we hit that infamous send button. Or for those of us who have actually just submitted volumes on paper, just drop it on the FedEx bin. So it's just a lot of work. And just to get an idea of how much work we're talking about in here, we're looking at anything from building a capture plan, developing a compliance matrix, working on competitive analysis, building and collecting your past performance and organizing it in accordance with the statement of work, doing a gap analysis. I mean, there's just a lot of things to do. Business intelligence to gather, bid no bids to have, what's going to be, my pricing strategy. This is just a lot of work. And the thing to keep in mind is that, all of this work that we have, any one fault on one of them can force us, to have a no bid or to effectively stop the pursuit. So we have to be, again, ready on a complete slew of things that we have to be working on. And the fact is that conditions do change throughout the period of the pre-RFP to the RFP, and we have to remain in the know. We have to be constantly assessing how ready we are, and we have to be on top of all those things, right? So it's a bit overwhelming. The good news is that the team does not have to do all of this alone, right? And that's why we have companies like Trident Proposal Management and Richter & Company that specialize on just making sure that our teams are in the best position to bid. So with that said, let's just dive into, and I'm going to turn it over now to Trident Proposal Management and its president and CEO, Jeff Everage, for him to walk us through his thoughts, on this topic. Jeff, over to you, sir.
Sorry, let me get off of mute. I didn't want to cut in throughout your presentation. Thanks, Nelson. Thanks for that kind introduction. You guys, there's an old joke. How do you know if someone you're talking to is a Navy SEAL? And the answer is they'll tell you. I got Nelson to tell you instead. And I'm in really good company with Randy here. He has really broken the code, and I'm just humbled a little bit to be on the same webinar as someone with the amount of industry knowledge and experience that he has. Trident is half the age that Randy is, and but I do have less gray. That's the only thing I can say. So thank you, Nelson, for putting this together, and thank you for having me in such great company as well. We're going to talk about two things that Trident has put together over the last 10 years, and these are what we're going to call our proven processes, and they are time-tested processes that are we proved these processes in the trenches of working with large companies and small companies, both combined, right? So we're not, this isn't just something that we're throwing out there as marketing material. This is the stuff that we live and breathe, and it's organized around two general services that we provide, but it's also something that we strongly advise our customers and train our customers to do as well. And it came out of this complexity that is being taught to the industry right now around proposal capture and shaping and around the actual proposal process itself. Because what we were finding is that people were coming back from training from different companies and they had these giant binders and really detailed technical, very step-by-step, like Venn diagrams and everything of things to do. And it was overwhelming when, the 80-20 rule really needs to be in place with proposal capture, proposal shaping, what we call as our proven process market management, and in the end, doing the proposal. 80% of 20% of what we were doing produce 80% or even 100% of the value needed or the work needed to actually get ahead of RFP release and to do a proposal efficiently. And so I'm going to dive into those two proven processes here briefly, because we don't have a ton of time. I want to make sure you guys get the value that you came for. And then just know that on our website, you can, there's a free download. You can actually get these proven processes directly on the website. And if you contact me at Jeff at Trident Proposals, happily to connect you with any free resources we have as well. So Nelson, if you could go to the next slide. The first process that we run this for our clients, and we also teach our clients how to do this, is market management. And it's funny because everybody really likes to key in on the capture management and the shaping, but that's the individual effort of the individual capture manager to get to the place where you're ready for a proposal and you can bid to win. What we're talking about in market management is more of a holistic meta approach and look at everything that you do to create opportunities to bid in the future. So everything across the board. And that starts with your business intelligence, your pipeline development, step one, going into opportunity research. And I like to say the best bid decision you can make is a no bid early, right? So you start marshaling resources quickly to the things you want to bid. Right. And then we go into what we call like the core part of market management, which is the capture and shaping of all the individual opportunities moving forward to your bid. Right. And the reason why it's time to take a step above capture and shaping to look at it from a market perspective is because from a business analytics perspective, whether you're a business unit manager, you're a BD person, you're a company owner like me, whatever you get in step one in pipeline development is the sum total of possible growth, sustained work and possible growth that you're going to get for the next 24 months. Right, does everybody get that? But hey, Nelson, I lost the screen there. But if you don't do pipeline development properly, get to no bids quickly so you have a set of bids that you're going to do over the next 24 months. If you don't have that in place, and you don't have a way to monitor and manage and push forward all the opportunities that the individual capture managers are doing, then what happens then is that you don't have any way of predicting the results of your business development activities to then say, okay, this is the growth that we expect in the future, right? And so that's why market management, I think, as a process, we've proven this for like last 6 or 7 years. We've called it market management and we've done market management for our clients. We're literally, at any given time, everything that you're going to bid on, where you're at from a bid perspective, from a reporting perspective. You're doing opportunity research in portfolios of prospective bid targets, right? And then your capture managers are working together and supported as they individually go after capture on the different opportunities. So what we call, just at the bottom is what we call lifelines. Lifelines are the templates and the guides that we are producing or have been producing that we give to our clients that help them move through the market management process in more detail. And it just like, we call them lifelines because it's something where you can instantly get going with that particular step of the process. So looks like you recovered back the screen back, Nelson. If you could go to the next slide. Cool. So then the other proven process we have is what we call FastProp, and that sounds a little gimmicky, I have to admit, but it's true, right? Because really, what you want to do as someone that's managing a proposal is you want to go through a simplified step-by-step process that efficiently produces the winning proposal that you'll kick out the door, right? And there's guidance out there that makes this ridiculously complicated and doesn't incorporate all the tools that we now have gotten used to using because we work from home. That Trident's been literally forcing our clients to use for I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years. Ever since Google Docs and SharePoint went online as well, we've been pushing people to move away from color team heavy reviews. You still need those point in time reviews to more iterative reviews. It's just an example of using new technologies to make things quicker, more efficient as you move through the process to make it a fast proposal process versus a cumbersome proposal process. So again, and this is, if you just go to tridentproposals.com, this is right on our first page of our website. You'll see this process. You can download it. We have some sort of free download up there. It's either the entire ebook, FastProp ebook that we wrote that takes you through the guide, or it's our shrunk down checklist of all these different phases of the proposal, but it's a 6-step process. First, prepare. Then you do your kickoff meeting. It's funny because this is a point in time thing, but the kickoff really sets the tone for everyone internally, externally. Setting expectations for your teammates, setting expectations for your writers, setting expectations for all the different parts of the proposal team. Moving into outline, what we found is you can trace almost every poor proposal written to a poor outline. Right? So we're saying outline with this major decision point of a structured outline approved. That's critical to everything moving forward. And this is where we think we're Trident in the way we manage our proposals. We're a little bit more innovative. So yeah, we do reviews. We like what's called a grade team review or an out-of-band review or an evaluation board review versus more the traditional, the writers review their stuff or the people that involved review their stuff. So we like to get evaluators to review separately. But we like to call those more traditional color teams, so we don't completely throw out the color team process. But we do say, hey, why don't we take a person that knows this client well, a person that knows the techniques or technology that we're demonstrating in our proposal, in our tech volume or whatever, or our management volume, know them that well. Why don't we take someone internally that knows the win themes well, and let's get them to review and let's revise this thing in sections way faster. And so that's why 4 and 5 are a loop. And then submit, of course, you got to submit, but submission is not as easy as it looks, and that's where we do think you got to slow down a little bit, have a submission checklist, including that final compliance check, that white glove, whatever it is. That's when you want to slow it down and take this thing from good or really good to fantastic. And so that's what we call the FastProp process. Very similar to a color team process. We do have, but we think that in the middle, step 4 and 5 is where we get things rolling way faster and we get to a better result quicker so that we can submit with less of these, okay, we need another pink team. All right, we need another red team. All right, this is off base. We really need to rewrite it. Like less of those gyrations that take you as the leaders out of the leadership role and into the writing role. Cool. Nelson, I am flying through this again. If you look at the lifelines, we have a whole bunch of lifelines we've created for our clients as well. These are just templates that we think are critical for the process. There's more than these, but these are the critical ones. And this is and this is the FastProp process. Nelson, if you could, is there anything else that I missed or that I should add? Oh yeah, right. Technical edits. Go ahead, Nelson. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to include you so we could actually just talk a little bit about the technical edits in more depth. And after you talk, I'll remind folks that there's a couple of coupons in the webpage. But back to you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is such an interesting part of the process, and it's a place where Trident has made a bit of a reputation in doing this particular piece really well, and we're sought out to do it. And there's a couple of reasons that I'll just say why Trident has developed this capability around tech edits and reviews. It's because it's the one thing that hampers our clients every step of the way. Like what we found is in the larger companies that like the big color team reviews, what we found is that if you don't have a really good copy and tech edit, then the reviewers just get stuck in the poor writing. They get stuck in the poor formatting. They get stuck in the what we call consultant speak. But if we can get tech edits done before a big review, that review gets more to the qualitative stuff. It gets into, does this have everything that we want to put in it? Is it written in a high impact way? Is there more examples? Is there more people we can bring to bear? Like, they start getting to better conversations. So we started pushing tech edits at key places throughout the proposal process so that we could get better feedback for reviews. And then we found that reviews tended to be they tend to get bogged down, and they also tended to be political. Like, whoever the top dog in the room was, if she said, "Hey, I want X," then no one would say anything above her. So we started realizing that having reviews that were out of the organization was important too, and that's what we call our great team. The other thing too is we realized that tech edits could take days to deal with. So we started hiring spouses of active duty military in Japan that are highly educated, understand the military, both men and women, and that they could actually do these tech edits, compliance checks really effectively overnight. So those are the three things this was kind of our over 10 years. We realized that there's tech edits that need to happen early, that they need to happen out of band overnight, and that the reviews really needed some sort of capability to review that was outside of the proposal organization itself, so that we wouldn't get drinking our own Kool-Aid and we wouldn't get this top dog dictating everything as well. So here in the diagram itself, just to go through it, if you look at it, it really is a pyramid. Mechanical edits, Grammarly does a lot of these for us now. So the mechanical edits can be really quick. Formatting edits, those can be a little bit harder. Those are the things that visually distract people that you really want to make sure you're optimized. You want to set your outline up in the beginning to look like this is what you're going to present to the government, right? So all your reviewers can get past the mechanical stuff, get past the formatting stuff. Do you really want the value add stylistic edits? This is what I call copy editing. This is what I call marketing editing, high impact writing style. These are the things that make a proposal go from answering the question compliantly to really being a compelling narrative that sells the products or services that you're trying to sell in the proposal. So that's that. This is the way we see it. And it goes from lowest value. Grammarly can do a lot of mechanical edits for you, to really getting into someone in the level 3 who understands how proposals are written and can write those well. Write those so that the government grades you well. All right, Nelson, next slide, please, sir. Cool. So I think, right, that we've talked a little bit about how to get ahead in our market management proven approach, and then we've talked about the FastProp approach in that iterative circle, so that you can get reviewers looking and giving you feedback and get a much better product much faster, so you can get to submit to win. And we talked a little bit about how copywriting and compliance checks need to be done before color teams to reduce distractions, that we really need to focus on high value, high impact copy editing, and that should, if possibly, done overnight, so that you don't lose days of proposal development before you get rolling. But I do want to say that one thing that can scuttle a bid more than anything else is pricing. And it's something that Trident, we're not experts in. And we tell our clients that you got to go to experts like Randy. So I'm going to turn it over to Randy, or Nelson, turn back over to you or Randy, to go into the pricing side of it, because it is art and science together.
No, that's exactly right. It's a little bit of art and science, and I will turn it over here shortly to our friends of Richter and Company and Randy. But I want to remind everybody that if you go to the resource page for the webinar, you'll find out on the right-hand side, there's a couple of coupons, and there you can learn more about the FastProp process. There's a video that you can watch. We'll give you a more details about the FastProp process. And also there's a digital course that Trident is offering for $99. So you can actually just, go through the tech editing course. It's all digital and video, and you can actually just get that discount, by being part of this webinar. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over now to Richter and Company. and Randy Richter, the chairman and founder. Randy, audio check, and over to you, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nelson. And Jeff, you're a hard act to follow. So I will try to not embarrass anybody. So, by the way, when we talk about, in my intro, 30 years of experience, well, what that doesn't necessarily entail is 30 years of price to win experience. Now, the thing is, we're going to talk a little bit today about price to win and what it is and where it is and how you use the results to win. But my background is actually very appropriate for this because I have a degree from Cornell University in nursery kindergarten education. And it turns out that that's absolutely perfect background for doing this kind of work. Because for those of us who have ever had or have 4-year-olds in their household, right? What's a 4-year-old's favorite question? Why? Okay, and it turns out that's a really, really important question to ask when you're doing this kind of work. All right. Now, next slide, please. All right. Now, the thing to keep in mind is there's a whole series of problems that are out here. I know none of us have ever been impacted by this thing called COVID, right? It's not having any issues at all with what we do. Well, the reality is, yes, indeed, I'm being facetious. It's hugely impacting everything we do. We are seeing RFPs slipping for, in one case, 2 years. We're seeing things getting canceled. We're also seeing programs that are actually slitting way to the left with RFPs coming out early. Now, as a corollary to all that, all the competitors that are out there are hungry. And so competition is fierce today, and it's getting so much fiercer. 10 years ago, it was not unusual to see 3 or 4 or maybe 5 bids on large programs. Now it's not unusual to see 15 or more. Now, tying into that is another trend that we've seen over the years, and that is that incumbents lose. Okay, all of us have said at some point, well, we're the incumbent and the customer loves us. The reality is that's not true today. The customer is happy with the solution you're doing today, but hey, if I can save a few bucks and I can sleep better at night, I'll happily work with somebody else. So you need to understand what your customer really cares about, which is another problem. We talk about what we do. And the reality is what we should be doing is understand what our customer wants and sell them that. Okay. Winners sell what the customer wants to buy. Losers tend to sell what they already have. And that brings up another point, which is today we're throwing things over the transom, things that were in the past, we would look at them and say, yeah, I'm not sure we need to bid this one right now. This doesn't meet our business goals and objectives. Well, the problem right now, we are sending proposals to everything. So today as companies, we throw a lot of things over the wall. The real problem, though, from my standpoint, is simply this. In a race to the bottom, the only thing that wins is the ground. Okay. And the typical reality for most of us is when we sit down and start developing a solution and we go back into leadership and we do a presentation to leadership, does leadership typically say, gosh, that's really good. Let's increase our technology. And as a result, let's increase our price. No. Typically what happens in these bid review meetings is leadership says, that's great, but we really want to win this. So cut your price by 30%. And in today's market, that happens consistently. And the result of that is people have a struggle providing the services that they say that they're doing. We are doing a lot of work these days in the intelligence community. And there's one particular contract that we have been working with a client.
All right, folks, it looks like we just lost audio for Randy. Can we do an audio check, everybody? A thumbs up, Jeff, if you can hear me. And
I have Randy and you both, Nelson.
Randy, we can't hear you.
I hear Randy just fine.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right. So we're working with on a contract right now coming out of the National Security Agency. This particular contract has a grand total of less than 50 people working on the contract. Yet the prime bidder on this contract is building a team of 70 companies. And the reason that they're doing that is because it's so difficult to find people with the necessary clearances and backgrounds at the price point that the customer is saying they're willing to pay. The reality is they've opened the competition to their subs and saying whoever can find a body to put in a slot gets the slot. Okay. And in that case, what ends up happening is companies risk being terminated for cause. People are at risk of not meeting their business goals and objectives. And we want to try to change that paradigm. Now, the core of what we do, so price to win versus pricing, right? We'll get to that. The core of what we do is based on an understanding that every capability you offer in your solution comes at a cost. And generally, the greater capability means greater cost. The graphic that you see over here on the left is our version of a win zone. And it really gives you the ability to see what are the evaluated capabilities and what the evaluated pricing is, and give you the ability to plot not a number, but a position for your competitors, and use that to identify what's the right thing for us to achieve in order to meet our business goals and objectives. And the reality is, what most of us do is we build a solution based on what we want to sell, based on what we have in the stable, and typically without understanding what our customers really want and what our competitors are likely to be offering. So we end up coming up with something that is above the budget the customer has to spend, what we refer to as the addressable budget. And when you're in that position, it's an unawardable contract. They can't buy it, so they won't give you an award. Or you come in with a number that's so low in price, it's just simply unbelievable, and the customer can't select you. Or I offer a solution that is simply unacceptable. It does not meet the requirements and or meet the value statements of the customer. But on the other side of the coin, I've got this unachievable, where I'm simply providing way too much capability and the customer will not buy for it. The space in the middle is the win zone. And the win zone is where you need to position your bids so that you have the ability to not just win, but also meet your business goals. So how do you get into the zone? So Jeff made a very, very great point earlier on, and I want to echo that. We have two clients today, and you can go to the next slide, please, Nelson. We have two clients today that one of them is extremely happy with its 35% win rate. And their approach is, if it's got a pulse, it gets a proposal. They throw things over the wall all the time. The other client is really, really, really unhappy by their 85% win rate, because their view of the world is, as they go through their gate review process from the early stages of the process all the way to the end, if they do not believe that they know the information that they need to build a solution, that they don't understand what the customer wants, what the customer values, what your competitors are offering, and as a result, they cannot build a solution that differentiates and discriminates themselves from everybody else, their default decision in every gate review is no. They kick it to the curb, they walk away, and they spend the money on other programs. So the reality is, by the time they submit a proposal, they believe that they've got a 100% chance of winning. And so they get really unhappy when they don't. Now, to contrast the two even further, the second company ends up bringing in roughly 2 times the new revenue of the first company every year. And the second company, the 85% company, also tends to submit fewer proposals over the course of the year. So their quality is higher. And, oh, by the way, for all of us who have been working in capture and proposal, They also have a proposal team that works 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Okay, the first company, it's a typical proposal treadmill where people are working 20-hour days and burning out over time. The 85% company doesn't do that. And the difference between these two companies is the second company really, really spends a lot of time focusing on identifying competitive intelligence. They start in the early phases of this business development process to do market research, to identify what is the likely market for the next 10 years for our products and services. And based on that, they can say, well, this is a market we want to be in. Here's a segment that we can really move into that's adjacent. We can build strategic goals and plans. Once they get to the point that they start identifying opportunities, now they start looking at doing what we refer to as a competitor assessment. A competitor assessment is an assessment of the capabilities a competitor is going to offer in the context of a market or a market segment. Not an opportunity. That's coming down the road. But at this point, it's general capabilities. I'm going to go after the widget market. I'm going to be creating a whole series of shoes and boots because that's where I'm going. But then as we get to the point that you start looking at the capture planning, proposal planning phases, now you need to know the specific solutions competitors are going to offer. And now you use something called a competitive assessment. Same basic tools, same basic analysis that goes into the competitor assessment, but now it focuses in the context of a specific opportunity. So if I am going after, let's see, the Ministry of Silly Walks, and that's something that I've identified through my strategic planning and opportunity assessment phases, I need to have competitor data to identify what are the kinds of capabilities people will use in going after ministry programs. But if the ministry comes out a specific opportunity for let's see, the Kinky Boots competition, for those of you who know are movie freaks, you know what that one means, right? But here, what you're looking at now is the specific capabilities that different companies are going to offer. And based on your assessment of those capabilities, now you can say, here is a gap in the different capabilities, which the customer really, really values. And therefore, I'm going to create a solution that fills that gap. And oh, by the way, I may be able to charge more money for it, which means now I'm potentially going to get a greater profit along the way. Great. So that's all the competitive assessment side. But there's also this thing called the pricing side. So let me give you a couple definitions. Price to win and pricing are two related things, but they're not the same thing. If you think of price to win as a process for identifying the capability of the solution and the resulting price that you're going to offer, then pricing is the process that you go through to achieve it. The analogy that I'll often use is for those of you who are archers or let's say archers, right? You come up to the line and you've got to see where the target is. Well, some poor person down at the end of the row is picking up that target and they're moving it. They're moving it forward. They're moving it back. They're moving it left. They're moving it right. And eventually they set the target at a specific position and they get out of the way. And you, as the archer, have the responsibility for knocking an arrow in your bow, pulling the bow back, aiming at the target and hitting the target or not. But the person that sets the target, the person who develops the price to win, doesn't have any control of your ability to actually hit the target. That's on you. So the price to win process is really designed to identify the solution and the number you need to achieve in order to meet your goals. Can we go back one slide, please? I want to hit two more points down on the bottom. Thanks. There are two types of price to wins. There's a price to compete analysis, and then there is a historical price to win analysis. Going back to what Jeff was saying early on, making decisions on whether to bid something or not, you also can sit down early on and based on historical data that identifies what your customer tends to be comfortable making awards on, you can now say that this organization tends to make awards at 85% of budget. This program that I'm chasing has a $100 million budget. Therefore, now I need to build a solution with a price for $85 million. And I can do that early in the process rather than waiting till the last minute, which is typically the norm. Okay. But then once we start knowing what the requirements are and the details of the evaluation and who the people are and what their personality is, now what we can start doing is we can start doing the price to win analysis. And price to win then is the bottom up solution based assessment of what competitors are going to offer from both a non-cost and a cost standpoint. The goal of the process is to identify the price to win position, not a number, but a position. Okay, and I'm waiting for the slide to come back here, but I'll start talking about it. If you could think back to the slide that I had before, the graphic with the win zone on it, okay, what I'm really trying to identify is in that middle space, in that win zone in the center, I'm going to evaluate all of my competitors. And I'm going to say this competitor is higher priced and higher capability, and this competitor is lower priced and lower capability. And based on all that, I can identify the relationship between the different bidders. So yes, now we can go to the next slide, please. So now what I'm doing is looking at the relationships between these three bidders. And now I see that depending on the evaluation process I'm going to use, I can determine what is my optimum position, okay? I'm the guy at the end of the archery range setting up that target. If I'm working in a low price, technically acceptable acquisition, then the winning position is at minimal capability, barely compliant, at $1 below the lowest price of your competitors. In a full trade-off kind of competition, the optimum position is always 1 point to the right of the highest rated from a technical standpoint competitor and $1 below the lowest priced competitor inside that win zone. Now, this is where the distinction between price to win and pricing really comes into play. Because the reality is that lower point of that green triangle, that's a really nasty place to be. It means you've got a lot of capability at a very low price. And so your profitability may be kind of low. But here's where the competitive analysis comes in. Because if I know that the customer really, really, really likes the color blue, and nobody else is offering the color blue as part of their solution, I'm going to paint my widgets blue and use that as the ability to raise the price slightly. Okay? Price to win analysis is not about the number. If anybody ever asks you, by the way, okay, so what is the price to win number? The answer is 42. Okay, and for those of you who are Douglas Adams fans, you get that one too. 42 is just the number that you want to hit. But the reality, it's a position, and that's what we're getting to. So let's go to the next slide, please. So we as a company have spent a lot of time working with clients over the course of the years to sit down and figure out, what are the kinds of services that people need that are effective. Okay. And, yes, I'm a marketing person. Yes, I'm a salesperson, but hey, at the end of the day, I'm a practitioner. And so in our company, our approach to doing business is always that we don't want to sell what we want to sell. What we want to do is sell what you want to buy. And so we develop products and services that are things that provide value to you. And the approach that we take then differentiates us from everybody else. So we've developed a series of branded services that we talk about. We call them the CA services and the PTW services. And those are the typical consulting type things that you see. They're offered at a whole series of price points. They're designed to be typically opportunity exclusive. So we typically only would support one company on any program. Then on the product side, we've developed what we refer to as the CA tools and the PTW tools. And those are things that we can sell using a syndicated approach to people, to things on opportunities that are not exclusive. So I'll give you a specific example. And this is, by the way, one of the things that we believe is different from anybody else in our peer group. The concept of a wrap rate. Okay, so everybody thinks they know exactly what a wrap rate is. And all it is basically is if I hire a person and I pay them $100,000 a year, well, I'm also going to have to pay them, I'm going to have to cover the cost of vacations and holidays and sick leave. I'm going to need to provide them with a computer and a facility to work in at least once a month when they come into the office. And I have to include cost for sales and general administrative expenses. And all of these things are actually things that add to the salary to identify the true cost of a person. So that $100,000 salary by the time all is said and done represents a true cost to the company of, let's say, $200,000, a wrap rate of 2, a multiplier against that $100,000 salary. Okay. There are a lot of companies out there that sell wrap rates, and I honestly resisted selling them for years. I hate the concept of selling wrap rates because at the end of the day, they're historical in nature. And the reality is smart companies in this business don't use historical wrap rates when they develop pricing. What they do is develop pricing based on the numbers they need to achieve their price to win position and beat the competition. So they need to understand what their competitors' rates are based on their strategies. So if you want to go back and look at General Dynamics as a company and pull a wrap rate from 10 years ago, great, go for it. But what you really need to know is that General Dynamics IT in this one particular bidding unit has a typical personality that gives them the ability to come up with a very, very specific way of coming up with their pricing. And that's what our products are designed to do, is give you that detailed level of information so that you can use them to really not only benchmark what you're doing, but also give you the ability to beat your competitors. Okay. So we provide products, we provide services, we do support to big companies and small companies. There are a whole bunch of people, by the way, hello to you all, who are existing customers. And I really hope that we've helped everybody, because at the end of the day, we don't want to do something that is not going to provide you with value. And let's go to the next slide, because another piece of the value that we provide, something that we consider very, very strongly, is that to avoid conflicts of interest, we never cross the line. There are a whole bunch of companies out there who will tell you that we will do your price to win, and then we will help you build your pricing afterwards. So we believe there's an inherent conflict of doing that because, hey, if I help you develop your pricing, that means I know your solutions and your strategies and your wrap rates and all your approaches to doing things. And hey, if I now start to work for another company that's a competitor of yours, it's very, very hard to not remember that as you go forward. So our approach is very straightforward. We do not do any work that exposes us to our clients' capabilities or solutions. Okay, we always look outward from our client. But if our client comes back in and says, but we need help on developing a proposal or developing a cost volume or whatever, we've developed a network of trusted partners that we refer business. So there's a wall between what we do and what they do. So, Jeff, here's your plug, man. Okay, we've got a lot of capabilities that we can provide, but to avoid crossing the line, we will offer them by referring you to Jeff and his team, who can do a tremendous job without causing a conflict of interest. And that's something we believe is a key discriminator between us and everybody else. Look, at the end of the day, there are a lot of companies that provide services. What we try to do is provide you the services that you need to not just win the deal, but also perform after winning so that you meet your business goals and objectives. It ain't about just hitting the number. It is clearly about performing after the fact so that you all can sleep better at night.
So that you all can make money when you win.
You all can make money. Absolutely.
Because who wants to be in the business of buying the work? And Randy, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the line you've drawn here, because we literally, in most cases, try to avoid, if we can, those proprietary wrap rates, those proprietary builds, that data could cause even just the misperception that I'm working with a competitive client and have that pricing data in my somewhere in my hard drive. That crushes us as well. So we love this like our partnership just because we can stay completely away from that.
Good. Well, thanks. And again, we believe this is something that has been a core part of our existence from the time we started the business. We are never going to be the company that walks your dog. We are always the company that focuses on what we do best, which is gathering information from non-proprietary open sources that is legal and ethical and moral, and providing news that you can use to help you win. And that's our entire mission. We give you news that you can use to help you win. Now, everything that we've talked about today is based on the very, very consistent processes that we use. And not only, by the way, do we use these processes internally, we also teach classes about these processes. So I'll go to my last slide and then I'll go back to sleep. We're offering a series of virtual training classes on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. If you're interested, follow the link to get information about these specific classes. They're free to the first 15 registrants out of this webinar, right? So we've already got something like 50 people signed up for these things. We've got slots open for you right now. And in those 3 days, we're going to be talking about the exact processes that we use to gather and present information to you. There are no hidden tricks. There's no anything up my sleeves, right? We talk about what we do because we believe it's effective and our clients believe it's effective too. So, Nelson, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today.
Randy, I really appreciate it, and I hope that you all, can hear me as well. I just had a technical difficulty early in the meeting, but Randy and Jeff, thank you so much for your sharing knowledge, today with us. I want to remind all of the attendants that we actually have some special offers. If you go to the resource page on the right-hand side, you will notice that we do have some special offers from both Richter and Company and from Trident Proposal Management. So please check those out. Also, would like to put in a plug-in for our next webinar, which will be in December around the 12th. I'll be sending information regarding to, and it's going to be about high-impact proposal writing. So please, be on the lookout for that email so you can join us and dive in deeper into high-impact proposal writing. And with that said, we're up in the Q&A period. So if there are any of the attendees who has any questions, please just type in on the chat or just pipe in and just share your questions. We have Jeff and Randy here for you.
Hey, while we're waiting, Randy, I have a question for you. So, yeah. Oh, this is all about the host dumping the host. Yeah. So from a wrap rate perspective, so really appreciate everything you talked about from the wrap rate perspective, that it should be more like a design tool versus a target. And people get really wrapped around the axle, around the wrap rate. So I just want to dig in just a little bit. So you're suggesting, and I agree with you, I think you're suggesting that literally the wrap rate is a bit of it's a little bit of a company design activity as well. Like, are you designing your company and the way you do everything from benefits to the printers and everything in a way that's winnable? Is there a feedback loop that you've seen where companies actually changed structures in order to win?
So I'll give you a specific example. And this is anecdotal, but from many different sources, including the company itself. The old Lockheed Martin IS and GS organization was a very, very, very strong proponent of competitive analysis and price to win. And one of the key things that they did was they would develop wrap rates for their competitors on a particular program. And they will look at all the different competitors and they look at the different solutions along the way. And they would determine that, for example, to be competitive, I need to have a wrap rate of 1.75. Now, the rates that we disclose to the government, the rates that we use internally, may not necessarily match that 1.75 rate. Let's say that I'm at a 1.85 rate, but to be competitive, I need to be a lower price. And so what Lockheed would do is adopt a cafeteria style approach. They would take fringe benefits from one pool, overhead from another pool, and then G&A from a third pool, and mix them together to come up with the 1.75 that they need. And when we talk about that in classes, for example, finance people, I can see them starting to bounce around in their chair and, fidgeting. And they say, but my God, how are you going to get these things through the approval process? And the answer is you don't have to until you win the deal. And once you win the deal, because you've won the deal, you've already gotten proof of what you're doing. Okay. So a lot of companies, we're working with a very, very, very large company right now on a program, and they have a grand total of 3 pools in their entire organization for rates. And they are struggling because they're getting killed by a lot of people in their space who can move things around as they need to and come up with a solution that's specific to the opportunity. Wrap rates help you do that.
Yeah, and so Randy, I just want to just pile on a little bit on that. This is a big company bid advantage that I believe small companies, maybe not the smallest companies, but small companies can really consider. Like that's some insight into what's happening anecdotally that Randy learned anecdotally, right? That I'm quite certain large companies are doing. So I would. I'd like that's gold right there to understand that particular way, that particular tool in the big company toolkit. Hey, Paul, if you're still on, just real quick, yeah, you can go to tridentproposals.com for the basics of Trident, but we have folks literally all over the world, and you'll see that we have some Metro DC area. We have folks on the Central and Atlanta and Tennessee. And then folks in California and on the West Coast, all across the West Coast, actually. And then we have a team of writers and proposal managers in Japan that are all U.S. citizens. They are spouses of active duty military. And we've been around for 10 years, actually over 10 years now, doing this particular business. So I think that answers that question as well. Anyone else have any questions in the chat, or you can just come off of mute and let us know.
Okay. Looks like you addressed that question, and thanks a lot, Jeff, for that. And Randy, I appreciate that. One last round of alibis. Any questions from the attendees?
Guys, somebody has to have a question for Randy. I have questions for Randy. I'm going to call Randy after this. We're going to talk rapper. You guys, you don't understand the insights that he's given you today and what's really going on. Right? If I came out and did a webinar that said that, one of my clients would kill me. Just saying.
I'm going to have to start talking to you about business development,
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Nelson, well, I think that's it.
No, I appreciate everybody. Thanks a lot for attending, and be on the lookout for a survey so you can give us some pointers on how we can make these webinars better. Once again, thanks a lot, to Richter and Company, and also to our sponsor, Trident Proposal Management. Jeff, Randy, thank you so much, guys. Everybody, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you so much, and see you on the next webinar.